Well, I talked a lot during the movie, but then she was like, oh, I was probably
I remember the time when my grandmother said, I'm going to the college. Of course we did. We tried. We can't do that.
I was telling you, that's Deborah, your
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me say they will. Certainly, appreciate each and every one of you being here. We're fixing to get started, and I'm going to ask Dr. Catherine Fuchs to return thanks, and Joe will tell you back on to the line. And I want you, everybody to take like you. Well, all right?
Let's pray. Dear Father, today this group of friends of Henry and Reba South have gathered to celebrate the birthday of a good old man. We love you. We thank you for the blessings he's given to each of us. We thank you for the countless gifts of his care and concern and enjoyment of his daily life at home, in the military, at work, in church, in personal visits, in phone visits, in telling wild tales, and offering sympathy as we have had need of both. We thank you for your eternal love. We pray that you will bless our food and that you will bless all of those who have made this occasion possible. We thank you once more for this special gathering for a special person's 95th birthday, Henry Self. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. That's a lot better than I could have done. We want you, Joyce, will you please up? Have you go through the line?
I think most of these people know how to go through the line, but you can serve on two sides and just get what you like. And when you get to the drinks, there's some bottled water, or if you'd like something else, there's sweet tea, unsweet tea, sodas, lemonade. Just let me know, and I'll get it for you if you'd like some help with it. So who's going to be the first one? Friends?
All right. Don't everybody try to be first now.
Move it, Mr. Henry, you first up.
You know I'm shy.
I don't think anybody's innocent here. Well, I think they're going to have them bring mine too. That's ours, too.
13th, Eddie's is exactly a week later, the 20th, and then John's is a week and a day later on the 28th. Did you make those?
doing all right?
I've been doing great. Yeah. Doing fine. And you?
Well, I'm getting right there.
Where are you moving to? Good place to move to.
Yeah, there are some
That's the way it can be.
There's my food. Let me know when you want to play that song. Got it queued up.
Good looking old man you got.
I picked him up off the street.
You did a good job.
Oh, you're sushi shop. Okay, I'm working on it. I'm doing it. Oh, wow.
This is the sweet tea.
Yeah, okay. I mean, Mr. Sal,
Only if you work me too hard.
Joy made the motherfucking.
Supposedly for 6 months. The initial statement was they would go to Germany, do about 2 months training, and then move to another country, like NATO country, just kind of the same. And so I'm assuming that the way things are going, they'll be in Germany and they'll come home. Yeah, so I just, they're talking about training in June, which would be like at least 3 months, they've been over there 4 months, or they can go home in June. At that point, I don't expect them to send me.
Yeah, okay. I remember that.
Well, did they pass it? Well, if y'all make it so good, it's gonna go down the
Oh, really? He's at that new center there in Shattuck. You got to sit. He's quite you know, I saw something on Facebook that showed he was, you know, Bill and Hyde. Sadie's dance. They were football team, and that was the last two. We had a wonderful time. We got to see that. And Bill Ward is
Folks, let me say something. We got plenty of barbecue back there, at least when I check this now. So don't be too bashful, whatever. We got plenty of it.
Get away from that gate.
Nixon team, I seen it hadn't been cut, I'm just staying away. I don't wanna get in trouble with it. I'm ready for the carry.
How's the alligator live?
Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please, for just a second? Can I have your attention, please, for just a second? If I could get what I call all my men, my daddy, my husband, and my son, to go back to the birthday cakes, because all of them have birthdays in April. My son just turned 31 on the 13th. My daddy's is on the 20th, and he'll be 95, and my husband, well, we won't tell his age, his is on the 28th. So if they'd go back there to the back, we're gonna light candles, and if you would join us in singing happy birthday, and then we'll serve the cake, and maybe my Uncle Clyde will share his banana pudding.
almost halfway through.
This cake was going
There's another lighter over there.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see your big 95 up here, Daddy? No, I just wanted y'all to come up here and say happy birthday. And then you can go back to the meeting. Yes. He might not. Yes, he'll share Daddy. There's another water over
Join us singing, please. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Henry. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
Make a wish and watch candles.
I wish I could blow them out.
Don't blow this way.
I wish I could blow them out. I'm not gonna try.
I don't know which way to blow them.
That grandson,
Okay, Mr. Henry, your turn. Your turn.
no, I can't blow them out. You blow them out for me.
Joy, do it, baby.
Thank you.
All right, Fred. You gonna start?
Go carry it to them, they gonna bring it.
Whichever, if
You like those?
Oh, he's got ash.
This is for Miss Catherine. She wants that chocolate.
Okay.
It's not gonna hurt anybody. Cause you know I can't go first.
Have a grandson that's 6.
You don't realize how tall he is. Right next to him. Nose to toes.
Either way. I gotta get a lemon and a chocolate.
Here's chocolate.
No.
What about you that help serve?
I am.
Okay, what kind?
Chocolate. Oh. You think you're gonna get ahead of me?
Well, I figured I could outrun you. How's all your children? I'll take it.
Okay.
We have red velvet and lemon also. That's a late afternoon.
Whatever you're
Right now.
Chocolate. I can just come in.
That's what it's here.
Oh, okay. Want the lemon or the chocolate or the red velvet? Okay.
They're beautiful. You did a great job. I think I'll try the chocolate. What you want?
was looking at it. I couldn't tell if it was an age. Yeah, we had some friends that had a cousin that was a
I was gonna get a sample of the chocolate
What we got? We have red velvet, Okay, I'll take that. You want banana pudding? You want pound cake? Yes, it's right here. Slices? Sorry, I got a little bit. Save mine.
Goodness, what else have we got here? I'm gonna try the red velvet. It looks so pretty. I know it will be.
Do you want it?
Oh, no, that's fine. I didn't realize you had one. I about got one of them platters over there. I figured that I could get. Yes, indeed. I'll tell you what, I don't want to waste the ball. Let me get us some decent. Well, thank you. Let's see, I'll have some. All right. Okay. Yes, sir. Don't want to waste the ball.
I'm like your daddy. I told myself, I said, I'll take that back to you.
We're gonna have banana pudding. That's my favorite cake. That's what I make at Christmas time. Sure. Really good. I know, I don't read it.
This is a birthday cake.
I thought kids were expensive until grandkids came along. I will. You got about at least once every 2 weeks. And CRV is always loaded up with like a bed.
May I ask you a question? Is anybody that hadn't had dessert? Is anybody that hadn't had dessert? If you want it, we want you to have some. But let me tell you this. To me, this is the oldest birthday party I ever been to. I don't bet you. 94 years old, 361 days today. We had to have it 4 days because next week we're going to have a prayer meeting, and it's hard for me to understand why they'd rather have a prayer meeting than have somebody's birthday that's 95 years old. I didn't charge nothing extra for that. Let me tell you a few corny jokes I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you some truth matters, some serious things, and I hope I hope I don't bore you. I hope you get where you can hear. Is everybody can hear me all right? Okay. Well, to start off with, when I was a young child, of course, we didn't have electricity back when I was growing up in the 30s, but we did have radio. And I remember a radio interview with someone that just turned 100 years old. And the announcer said, "Oh, Tommy," said, "You've seen a lot of change in your time, eh?" He said, "Yep, I sure have." He said, "And I was again every one of them." And so the older I get, more I'm again all these changes. Even though my friend John Pope here is a retired county agent, and I'm a county agent, we're supposed to have been change agents all these years, and we did do some changing. But I've been retired 39 years, and John, I've changed my attitude a little bit. Let me tell you this. I want to start off tell you this is a story that. Oh, and by the way, I have some of my family here that came. I only have one baby brother living and two sisters. I did have 5 other brothers living and one sister. They're all gone now. But we're glad to have them, and we're glad to have every one of you. And I'm going to share a few thoughts with you. And while I was in the Army, I was drafted in the Army shortly after high school in August 1945. And we came home for a few days of furlough just before they shipped us overseas to Germany. And while I was there, I was visiting at a little country store, and 2 boys that I knew, grew up with in school, both of their family, were in the hog business. And one of them said, the guy's name, Billy Coker and Donald Harkins. And by the way, Sheriff, one of them was a deputy sheriff's son. And Billy says, "You know anybody wants to buy a bull hog?" Don says, "I don't know." He said, "How big is he?" He said, "Oh man, he's a big old thing. He's a whopper." And Don says, "Well, Daddy's got a few young gilts coming on, but if he's that big, I don't expect we can use it." "Oh, he's not so big." Now, that actually happened at a country store more than 75 years ago. Now, so these folks hadn't just started lying just recently. They've been doing it a long time. Somebody asked me, I've been retired 39 years now, and that's really longer than I worked with Extension Service. But somebody was talking, I've had this name tag, I guess, it's been in the chest of drawers. I hadn't worn it in at least 40 years, but I just put it on so you can see what we used to have to wear. Now, somebody asked, said, "What do you do since you retired?" And I tell them, "Well, you get up in the morning and not a thing in the world to do, and then when night comes, don't have half of that done." I have my lovely wife here with me of 73 years. This is Dr. Mama Reba has tried to keep me straight for 73 years now. And I might add that I'll tell you a little bit more about that just a little bit further along. But anyway, I was going to say she has all kind of patience. She has really looked after me all these years, but I don't hardly have any patience whatever. I'll be fair with you, and I can't stand the people tell me they're going to do this and do that and then disappoint me. It's heartbreaking. But I do tell you that if I'm trying to do nothing but kill time, I want to hurry up and kill it. Now, back when I was in high school, we had one of the prettiest teachers you ever saw who was teaching sociology. And we had we got off on the subject of lying. And this little girl was seated right in front of me. She says, "Nothing in the world makes me any madder than somebody tell a lie on me." This old boy sitting by me is Carmen Barrett, and some of my family knows who Carmen is. But Carmen said, He said, "That don't bother me at all." He said, "What makes me mad is when they tell the truth." So the truth does hurt sometimes. I've heard my mother tell, I don't know how many times growing up, that the truth will stand alone when the world is on fire. Now, some of you, of course, knew Mr. Albert Banks, who had the E.W. Banks store. He used to call it Forsyth's best store. Well, Mr. Banks' wife's sister was my secretary when I first came here as county agent in 1958, 63 years ago. She worked with me about 2 years, and she says that Mr. and Ms. Banks never had an argument. It's hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to believe that a married couple don't have any arguments. But I'm here to tell you, though, that Reba and I haven't had but one argument. But, of course, I want you to know that that same argument has lasted now over 73 years. But she's put up with a lot with me. And she is the glue that has held this family together. And our youngest daughter, Joy, and her husband, John Ham, did most of this. And our other daughter, Charlotte, as Mom said, and her husband, is Buddy gone? Anyway, we appreciate both of y'all and everything you're doing. And of course, right here, the only grandchild I have, 31 years old, last 13th, which is 3 days ago, 31 years old. He works as, what do you call it, EMS, Emergency Management Service. He's a technician, and he works with that, drives ambulances, and he got hurt the other day. His back's hurting. But he and this lovely girl here just got married less than 3 months ago. They've been on the honeymoon to Hawaii, and I'm glad that they're here with us. We appreciate you both. Now, I see my friend Buster Watson here. Buster used to be a 4-H member back about 60 more years ago. And Buster's daddy was quite a comical character, and he was in the dairy business. He told me when I first came here, one of the first dairymen I met, and he says, Henry, the trouble with the dairy business is that I don't care when it is. If it's not time to milk, it's nearly about it. Of course, they have to milk twice a day. And not too long after that, I don't know, I remember exactly when it was, but it's been more than 55 years ago, we had a serious outbreak of sore mouth disease in our county. You know, we used to have a lot of dairies in this county. When I came here, according to the health inspector, we had 87 dairies at that time. And earlier in the paper had it wrong. He said 1960, but I was county agent in 1960. We didn't have that many dairies, but we did have, at one time in history, had over 300 dairies, according to the record, here in Monroe County. But now, I saw just about a month ago, we lost the last one. But anyway, we had this serious outbreak of sore mouth disease, and we had a federal veterinarian here. And by the way, one of our local veterinarians was going to be here tonight, but he's not. They had to see about something else. But anyway, what I'm going to tell you, we were out there on Centel's farm, and they had a federal veterinarian, a state veterinarian, and Dr. Nasser was a local veterinarian at that time. And Centel says, Doc, he said, now what is it you call this disease? He said, it's vesicular stomatitis. And Centel sort of calmly looked at me. He said, yeah. He said, that's what it is. He said, it could be nothing else. Let me tell you this story too. And growing up, now I tell you, two of my sisters here and my brother, did I tell you that? Okay, I don't know whether. I'll tell you, after you've been retired 39 years, you're 94, almost 95, you'll never forget who you are. But let me tell you this though. We lived in this house known as the Hickey Place on Rush's Chapel Road. It's been gone now. It's been gone for 75 years or more. But we had company there one day, and two of my older brothers, Bob, just 2 years older, and then Bo, my other brother, about 2 years older, which is 4 years older than I am. And they got in a tussle there. We had company on the front porch. They got to playing, and then finally they got mad, and they got in a fight. And some of the guests and all said, Bob won, and it made Bo mad. And one of the things that we didn't dare tell our daddy growing up, that he was telling a lie. We'd get that razor strop, and he knew how to use it. And made Bo mad. And Bo says, he says, every one of you telling a lie except Daddy, and he's telling something ain't so. This is not in any means what kind of a story am I trying to say? It's not a story to reflect on race. It's not racism or nothing. But in the 30s and 40s, I remember Amos and Andy on the radio. Some of you may have known some of them back in the 40s. Is anybody here that's going to admit here in the 40s? Anybody? Well, anyway, yeah, one or two admit. But anyway, they had a good radio program called Amos and Andy. And later, of course, the NAACP took them off. It was two white people that portrayed black dialect. And they were talking, and Amos says to Andy, he says, what do you know for? He says, Amos says, I'm noted for my famous eyesight. And then he said, so I guess I'm noted for my hearing ability. And Amos says, you see that flagpole up there by the post office? He said, it's about 100 yards away. And he said, on top of that flagpole, it's a little round knob. And said, I see a fly walking on. He said, you see that fly? He said, no. He said, no. He said, but I know he's there, though. He said, how you know he's there? He said, I hears him walking around. So he can really hear. My youngest daughter, Joy, can hear almost that good. I have to watch my P's and Q's all the time, making too much noise for her. All right, let me see, where are we now? Sheriff, let me tell you this one. By the way, we got our current sheriff, and we got two former sheriffs with us and their wives. And I thought you might like to hear this one. They had this prison, and most of them had been in the prison for life. And every night when they turned off the lights, they would tell a joke, and everybody could laugh. And so they told the jokes over and over. Everybody learned them. And they didn't have anything else to do, of course. Most of them was in there for life, and they did that for entertainment. And so they decided they would just mimeograph the jokes, and then they would just call the number, and everybody know what number that joke was, and everybody get a big laugh at it. So they got this new prisoner in, and everybody would holler, said, number one, and so everybody would just laugh, and then number three, everybody would laugh, and then the next day he was talking to his roommate who had been there for life, and he said, let me try that. He said, all right. And he went up there and he said, number one. And when he didn't get any response, whatever. And then number three. And he still didn't get a response. And he told his roommate, he says, I think y'all kidding me. Y'all pulling my leg. He said, no. I said, that's a good joke. He says, I tell you, son. He said, some people can tell jokes, said others can't. I'm somewhat a slow learner, but talking about my wife, I'll tell this on her. When I first got married 63 years ago, the one thing though I learned what's hers is hers, and what's mine is also hers. Who said that? Okay, let me see. I told this joke to my grandson back. They just got married less than 3 months ago, and we congratulate them and hope they have many, many happy days together. But I told them this joke about this young couple that had just gotten married, and just several months went along, and they were having money troubles. And every month they would be overdrawn at the bank. And finally he got tired. He told her, he says, now I said, babe, if we overdraw next month, he says, see this fist? He said, you're going to get it between your eyes. And so sure enough, next month, they're overdrawn again. And so he hit her, and she suddenly disappeared, and he didn't see her anymore for a week. But on the 8th day, he could see her a little bit out of one eye. You know, when I was 9 years old, we moved from the Hickey place I was telling you about. We moved up to a little community called Oostenaula. You've probably heard of Oostenaula River. It runs just above Calhoun, Georgia, to Rome. Those two towns are 22 miles apart, but that river is considerably more than 50 miles long. It got a lot of bends and curves. But anyway, when we were up there at the Oostenaula, somebody was making a survey there, and run up on one of the mountaineers there, and he says, say, mister, says, do you know the name of this river? He said, yeah. He said, what is it? He said, Oostenaula. He said, how you spell it? He said, what's the word you want to spell it for? There it is. And another thing, this came to me from reliable sources. There at Oostenaula, there were, there's some school teachers in this group, I'm sure. You know, at school they make out these, what they call the permanent records, you know, when the children come in and put their parents' name and so forth. And the first grade teacher asked this little girl, she was trying to find out her mother's name. She said, what's your mother's name? And the little girl said, I don't know. She said, well, what do you call her? She said, well, we all call her Mama, but Papa, he calls her Sook. Can you imagine that one? Yeah, some of you. Wait, say about number 3. Okay. Some of you may have known Dr. John Griffin, who was a math professor over at Tift College, and I understand he's not with us anymore, but one day I met up with him in a grocery store, and I just made up this to see what his reaction would be. But it's the truth, it's truth, but it was distorted a little bit. I said, John, I got married on August 8th and went in the Army on August 9th. And he looked at me, he said, what's the matter? He said, you couldn't stand her, could you? But that's a true story, but it's not the truth, not the full truth. You see, I went in the Army August the 9th, 45, got married August 8th, 48, 3 years later. But that was a full story. I just wanted to see what it response, and I got it. Dr. Hugh Mercer, I made a note. Where's Hugh Jr.? Hugh Mercer here. Yeah, he's back here now. We had him 4-H back 63 years ago, I guess. But anyway, here is a retired county surveyor, and I understand was a very good one. But what I want to say, his daddy worked across the hall from me when I was county agent here. And by the way, I hadn't been county agent in 49 years. And that is next month, 15 more days will be 49 years since I was county agent. But anyway, Dr. Mercer always told us, he says, it's all right to use incorrect grammar provided you know better. I thought there's a lot of wisdom in that. Now, I want to tell you this one, too, next thing. And some of my brothers and sisters and in-laws know this man I'm talking about. A man named W.H. Pelfrey was a casual friend of mine, and he was a dear friend of my brother Willie here. That he told me, I found out, over the years, we'd have conversations on the phone and all, and he told me, I found out he was near death, and I called his wife, and she said, well, says he heard you call and says he wants to talk to you. I was surprised. He was on his deathbed, he wanted to talk with me. And he told me, he says, Henry, it says, if I were to live my life over again, he said, I would not change a thing. And I wish I could say that, but I sure can't, not truthfully. I tell you what, when I got my sheepskin at the University of Georgia in 1951, they told us to wear a suit, coat and tie, and cap and gown. And I only had a wool suit, and I wore that same cap and gown on a hot summer day in June to get that sheepskin to go over. I think I would tell them what to do with it. But that's one thing I sure would change. I wouldn't have done that. All right, and the next thing I want to tell you, some of you remember we used to have what they call circuit preachers. It was in a Methodist church, I think, wasn't it? Huh? Wasn't it Methodist denomination that had the circuit preachers? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, up in the mountains, I had this circuit preacher, and of course he was riding around, and he rode up on this man sitting on the front porch, and he says, Mister, he says, are you lost? He said, lost? No, I'm not lost. He said, I've been living here all my life. He said, no, I mean, are you ready for the judgment? He said, well, he said, when's it going to be? He said, well, that we have no assurance of. It may be today or it may be tomorrow. He said, goodness sakes, don't tell the old lady. She want to go both days. And I noticed some former scoutmasters in the audience, and they some of them have heard this story before, but they had this scout meeting, and this little boy came in 30 minutes late. The scoutmaster said, Sonny, said, you do a good deed today? He said, yes, sir. He said, what'd you do? He said, I helped the elderly lady cross the street. He said, you mean it took you 30 minutes to help her cross the street? He said, yeah, but he said, you don't understand. You see, she didn't want to go. And another one at a different scout meeting, they asked this little boy what he did. They're supposed to do a good deed every day, you know. And he says, he helped this elderly lady catch a train. And he said, well, how in the world did you do that? He said, well, she was hobbling along there on a walking stick, and said the train actually started moving off a little bit, and said it looked like it was going to run off and leave her. And said, I sicked my dog on her. But at least he helped to catch a train. And Sheriff, let me tell you this. Growing up, and until I went in the Army at age 18, our home, as far as I know, was never locked. Now, and it has been that way for 50 or more years, when you come in at night or something, first thing the wife said, you lock the back door. We live in a different society, aren't we? When I came here 63 years ago, we had one sheriff, one full-time deputy, and one part-time deputy. And now we got probably, what, 90 or 100?
130.
130. Oh, it's more than I thought. But anyway, it's still probably not to do the job. Anyway, we appreciate it. I know that all of you enjoy and sleep better at night knowing that we got a good sheriff's department. And we appreciate. We not only appreciate you, but we appreciate the previous church. John Kerry is here. He was in that job a long, long time. Where's John Kerry? Thank you, John. He's now a U.S. Marshal. And his daddy is, where's Elf Kerry? And he had a job for about 20 years before he took U.S. Marshal. We appreciate all of it. Appreciate you very much. Now, when I was 11 years old, we lived at what was the place they call Scott Floyd Place at Plainville it's in Gordon County. We lived there 2 years. And when during my first year we lived there, I was 11 years old, and then moved away when I was 12. But my daddy caught me smoking out behind the barn. I was smoking corn stilts. And normally when he caught us doing something wrong like that, he had a razor strap, he had a straight razor, and we would strap that razor on that razor strap, keep it sharp, But that's not the only thing he used. And my brother Willie will attest to this. He wore us out when we needed it. But instead of wearing me out, when he caught me smoking, he talked to me. He said, son, he said, I've been smoking before you all your life. And he says, I wish you wouldn't do it. And didn't even bother to whip me. And that made a big impression on me. And so when I went through the army, over in Germany and so forth, some of my so-called friends make little light of me because I wouldn't smoke with them. Also, when I went through the university system, they also did that. And some of those so-called friends been dead now over 30 years. I'm thankful I had sense enough to leave it alone. And somebody told me just recently, said, we'd never have heard your wife raise her voice or say anything to you. I said, well, let me tell you one thing. I said, that lady can say more, just one look, than most folks can say hollering out loud. And so she is the glue that has held this family together, and we certainly appreciate it. I was once I had to go to speak some group, I forgot what it was now, but the person was presenting me to the group. He says, oh, Henry is outstanding, among other things. He said, Henry is outstanding in his field of work. And some so-called friend stood up out there. He said, yeah. I said, that's where he ought to be right now, outstanding in a field somewhere. How many more of these things you want to hear? He getting tired of them, Reggie.
Tell about Sammy.
Tell about who?
Sammy at the dance.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sammy at the dance.
Sammy Freeman?
Yeah.
Sammy at the dance. Sammy at the dance. Or dance. Sammy at the dance.
Sammy Freeman?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Well, some of you knew Mr. Blackwell that I followed here. He retired August of 58. I took office September the 1st, 58. and Mr. Blackwell told me he went up to the Freeman Dairy, and Sammy was there. He was 4 years old, and said he came up when he stopped and said he propped his foot up on the running board. He said, "Did you bring me some shucks?" He said, "No." He said, 4-year-old said, "Now," he said, "how in the hell you expect me to run a dairy without any shucks?" 4-year-old said that. Is that what he's talking about? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Well, when Charlotte was in high school, Charlotte graduated when, 67? Okay. And Sammy Freeman, and they were in the same class or close to anyway, they had some kind of function, you know, a bunch of folks in high school there, and I had been picking at Sammy, and I said something to him, and he didn't want to hear any more of it, I guess. He says, "Charlotte, say, get your daddy out of here." That's what he's talking about? Yeah, Sammy came by just now, and he was invited and told a little story he couldn't attend. Okay. Some of you, I'm sure, know who Yogi Berra is, or who he was. Of course, he's the famous catcher for the New York Yankees, later became the manager. And Yogi used to have a saying. He says, "If you've done it, well, then it ain't bragging." And so I'm going to tell you here, I've done it. You know, back shortly after I graduated from high school, I was drafted into the Army, and we went off, had 17 weeks of intensive training in the infantry. And then as soon as we got through with that, we shipped over in Germany. And the war, you see, when I was drafted, the war was over in just a matter of a few days, less than a week, 6 days, I think. I'm not sure about that, but it's about a week approximately. But I went to Germany, and when we got there, of course, we rode through France in an old train, and all they told me it had square wheels on it because it sure did ride rough. But it took us a long time to get through France over into Germany, and we had several things to do while we were there, such as search and seizure in the homes. They found a lot of things that they weren't supposed to have. And then we had a short period of time I was in Border Patrol. You know, Germany was divided at that time, right down the middle, and the Russians was in charge of one side, and the United States, of course, on the other side. And they had a 200-yard space in between the two points when they're going back and forth. If they didn't have the right credentials, we wouldn't let them through. But I found out while we were there, of course, we had live ammunition, and I found out that when people come, every day we had to go to their post, which is 200, and we prohibited from carrying any live ammunition, which we didn't. I never did. But every time they had to come down to see us, they had one of these, I don't know what kind of gun, about that, at least 50 rounds in it. I knew right then that we couldn't trust those Russians. I learned it firsthand. And we still can't trust them, can we? Nope. It's a pitiful thing. I believe if my old field sergeant was still around, he could take Putin out over there. I'm pretty sure he could. But anyway, I want to tell you, while I was there, though along about in May in 1946, the war was just over, you know, and they're having their war crime trials. And for some reason, I was selected to be one of the guards there for Hitler's Big 21. And we on duty one day, and then we go back to the SS troops for the second day, and we alternate like that each day. And we guarded these people around the clock. We'd be on duty for 2 hours, and then all four, and did that 4 times each day. And that got old. But anyway, while I was there, of course, I got to see all those people. There was and people like Hermann Göring, who was second in command to Hitler, and I think Rudolf Hess was the meanest man I ever saw. But anyway, among the others, and this so happened that on I think it's the 8th or 9th of October, after the trial was over, they hung 9 of those Nazis. And it just so happened, our group went on duty the next morning at 8 o'clock. The scaffolding was up and the mats were on the floor, blood all over when I went on duty at 8 o'clock. And just think if it had been the other way around, I'd have been there, had to have been a witness to that. But I consider that an honor and a privilege and a duty. And I don't know if anybody else here in Georgia that was there with us at that time. Well, are you getting tired of this? You want to hear any more? Dr. Carver, you tired of it? Huh? Well, let me tell you this. When I remember hearing this, I wasn't there, but I remember hearing my daddy tell about, it said the preacher was preaching about differences in people. He says it's a good thing. He says this thing. He says everybody was like me. He says everybody would want my wife. Instead, one of the deacons interrupted and told him, he said, well, this thing, if all like me, will nobody have her? I'll tell you what, this one, and I think everybody can relate to this one. My former boss man was an excellent storyteller, I thought, and he used to be, before he took that job, he was county agent of Bullock County 25 years prior to that. But he said as he was in his office one day and one of his farmers came in and was upset about his bank account. He said, Byron, let me use your phone. He said, all right. He said he called the bank and said the black man answered the phone. And he said, let me speak to the president. He said, he's not here. He said, well, let me speak to the cashier. He's not here either. He said, well, somebody's got my bank account all messed up. He said, I want to get straight. He says, boss man, he said, I was just the janitor. He said, this Wednesday afternoon, the bank's closed. He said, when I said hello, I done told you all I know about this young banking business. So actually, when I told you hello, I done told you all I know about this 95th birthday, because I like 4 days getting there yet. Well, let me tell you this. I've got 2 or 3 things I want to tell you that I've observed during my lifetime. And I found out, though, a long time ago, that giving advice, unless they ask for it, most of the time is not worth a hoot. But I'm going to give you some advice, 2 or 3 things, and if it's any value to you, I hope you can use it. But it's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't. But the first thing I want to tell you is beware of those who have nothing to lose. And the next thing I want to tell you is don't be the first to try the new, and don't be the last to discard the old. And this would, Sheriff, or anybody that's running for public office, might be something value to you. I don't know. But I tell you this, that this boy went off to service about the same time I did. And said he wrote his girlfriend a postcard every day for a whole month, told her he loved her, wanted to marry her. But you know what she did? She married the postman that delivered the postcard, said you can't beat that personal contact. I gave this advice to Devereaux and Randy. I don't know whether they bothered to think about it or not, but I understood they had some premarital counseling. I told them, well, Ma Reba and I had lived on the previous that if you love one another and you trust one another and you respect one another, and then the last one I was obey. If you can do that, you have to live a long time together. I hope you do. And let me leave this thought with you. And this one was from Booker T. Washington. I just wrote it down. So if you want to lift your own self up, lift someone else. I thought that was good. And I appreciate all of your attention. I appreciate the Dayspring Presbyterian Church letting us have this thing here. I've been a member of the First Baptist Church 63 years, but we couldn't have it over there either. And of course, the 80th and 90th birthday was held at Pastime, but they quit doing that, and so we couldn't do that. But I appreciate everything, Charlotte and Joy, particularly Joy has worked hard, and John, he set up all this microphone and so forth, and I hope that you could hear me. Okay, good. I tell you, I've had so many meetings in my career, and so many of them you could not hear what was being said, that it just irks me, and I know when you're doing that, you're just spinning in your wheels. And I appreciate the fact John Ham, and John, by the way, he brought his mother and daddy with us, and we're glad to have them with us. Mr. and Mrs. John Ham Sr., where are y'all? Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. Glad to have you. Well, I heard my daddy say a lot of times when I was growing up, he says, peace and satisfaction is worth it all, particularly if you love the Lord. And I love the Lord, and I know He loves me, and I hope that you do too. And with that, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Anybody want to say anything? Anybody want?
Mr. Henry, I got to tell something on you.
Okay, tell.
Get away with it.
You want to come in?
I got to come up there.
You want to come up here? Okay.
You put this card out. Denise brought my attention to it. But how you got on one of these ponds years ago, Miss Darden, who lived to be 96, sent me to Henry's, Miss Reba's house to take some fried pies. The Darden, my brother-in-law, would not go over there because Miss Darden wouldn't let us eat any of them. And you know, when you gave them to Mr. Henry, you certainly weren't going to get any back. So I took these pies over there. I'll get to the pond. And so on a Monday night, and so on Friday morning, I get this phone call. Miss Henry says, when you brought those pies to my house, you failed to invite me to your pond to go fishing. I said, well, you know where it's at, and you got the combination. Help yourself, go fishing. So he did. And then last time I remember him fishing, his grandson was with him, and somebody got the Suburban stuck, putting their boat in. So I had to go down with a tractor and pull it out. And I think this is the reason he didn't come back. I said, you know, the fishing is free, but I got to charge you to bring my tractor down here to pull your car out. But he says, my grandson done it. I said, well, I'm not going to charge your grandson. So I said that to say this. So a while back, we were trying to get to the Mary Persons ball game. It was raining. We were running late. Cars everywhere, no place to park. So I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to park at Mr. Henry's house. So I called Mr. Henry and I said, Mr. Henry, last time you were at my pond fishing, you failed to invite me to park my car for the Mary Persons game.
Did you get the point? Thank you.
And the rule is, you're not supposed to tell anybody where you catch a fish, particularly in my pond. I see you've got a picture of it there.
Well, no, that wasn't your pond. Thank you. Now, I've been privileged to fish in at least 6 or 7 ponds in adjoining counties in this county, and I appreciate it. And I tell you, I try not to abuse my privilege. I tell you, one other thing, though, I forgot, but Yogi says, so Yogi Berra says, if you don't, I forgot to tell you this, and I am proud of this fact. In high school, I was voted the most dependable man there in high school, and I have always tried to be dependable, and of course, you can't always do everything, but I have tried to do everything that I promised anybody would do. And is anybody else going to talk or say anything?
I'll tell one good one on y'all.
Wait a minute. What?
I said, I'll tell one good one on you. This happened back in 1980 when all the wells had dried up here in Monroe County and other surrounding counties.
I can't hear you. You won't come to mine.
I'm gonna go tell you why. I'll tell you later. I've never been good at public speaking because District Project Achievement showed me that years ago, you know. I was going to tell back 1980 in August, everybody's wells had dried up here in the county. Well, Mom and Daddy was having one drill down there. And they'd been drilling for 2 weeks, and the thing would tear up. And best Pat, one day you and Miss Reba come driving up. And I remember y'all come out there and looked at them drilling. Y'all went in the door, I reckon, go drink coffee or tea or whatever you and Daddy was drinking at the time. And by the time y'all walked in the door, the well blew out. And we had the most water, and still got it, that's ever been on that place down there. Sure is. We got 75 gallons a minute.
Well, that's great.
And the old well down there by the dairy barn was getting 8 gallons a minute. Not a gallon, not 8 gallons a minute, but that was one blessing y'all put on us, and that's been many, many years ago. And I thought I wanted to tell that on. I told Joy I'd tell one good one on y'all. That was true. Sure. Then that's the day that on the left front wheel of your car, the bearing locked up. And me and my boys took a chill and we fixed that thing, put you a new bearing on there for bringing us some water that day. Sure did. I just wanted to tell you that.
I appreciate you doing that. You did a good deed. We hadn't forgotten about you fixing that, but I didn't know all that about the well. But I'm glad you thought we had a part in that. Is anybody else? Dr. Caldwell, we're so glad that you and your bride came. Now, Dr. Caldwell has been my doctor for 40 years or more, and he's looked after me remarkably well. Of course, he didn't do that, but I got a pacemaker I've had for 10 years now, and it seemed to be working good. And I just hope and pray that you don't have to wear one, but if you do, I hope it'll do the same good job that mine's done. How about any of my siblings? Well, while I'm talking about my siblings, I am going to say this. In my family, my dad and mother had 11 children. 5 before me and 5 after. I was the middle child, 5 after me. And the first one died as a baby, but 10 of us lived to be grown folks. And my dad and mother sacrificed a lot. You just can't believe that the times, unless you experience it, you cannot believe what we had to go through during those Depression years. But they sacrificed a lot. But besides the first girl that died, then they had 7 brothers, 7 of us boys in a row, and then 3 girls. And I've heard my mother say several times that those 3 girls gave her more trouble than those 7 all put together. Now, y'all want to make a rebuttal on that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
They're gonna get you for that one, Henry. Your sisters are gonna get you for that one.
Well, they've been kidding me all these years.
He told the truth.
Yeah, I never known that my mother tell a lie. That's what I was quoting her. Well, with that, I don't know anything else to say, but I appreciate all of y'all coming, and it's been wonderful, I think, and I hope I can live to be 100, and if I do, well, I'll try to talk them into doing it again. Appreciate you coming. Is anything, anybody else want to say anything? Thank you again, John, for setting up a mic and all the things that you did. And thank you, Joy, for everything you did. And Charlotte, and Mama Reva, and Devereaux, and Randy.
How about Joy's stew?
Do what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, John.
That Brunswick stew Joy made was delicious, wasn't it?
Joy made the stew. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Joy. She made the nanner pudding, too, and the cakes. We appreciate it. Can't say thank you enough. Appreciate you coming. And just...
I know it.
Really disappointed.